No, thank you, Nibas. And it is a pleasure once again to welcome you all for the Against All Odds event Freshworks is running for startups. I had the privilege of joining them last week in India, and this week we are doing it in Singapore, or rather in APAC. But I'm here with Ajay, who's here from Singapore. So let me introduce our speaker today. We're going to be spending 30 minutes talking and chatting about Ajay's journey into it. Ajey Gore is an operating partner technology with Sequoia. We oftentimes don't hear the word technology usually there, but Ajay recently joined Sequoia to lead and help companies within Sequoia portfolios, especially in India and Southeast Asia, scale in digital and technology and everything in between that. Prior to it, he was Group's CTO for GoJek, and oftentimes people don't know what GoJek is, but I'm assuming in this part of the world, everybody knows who GoJek is. He also founded CodeIgnition, which got acqui-hired into GoJek, and that's the journey into GoJek. And then many moons ago, head of technology for ThoughtWorks. So Ajay, I also know in between, you also tried opening a screen printing press and then almost ran a school. But those are interesting stories. But this is how it feels like being in a venture capital organization, be part of the technology arm of it. What's your sort of the next quarters plan for you, Ajay, in your new role, which we understand is brand new almost?
Oh, thanks for actually hosting me over here. Super happy that you guys actually thought that I should come. So thanks a lot for hosting me. Most of time, what we do in over our life, so there's always a mission and always a purpose. And one of the things which was I was very intrigued in terms of startup ecosystem, is that how do we go and spend a lot of time? So if you look at what Sequoia mentioned, one of the things which we find it, which like Sequoia being one of those full stack VCs, if you call it that way. So I kind of gonna complement that one stack of the VCs, which is gonna help all our portfolio companies in terms of technology, strategy, scaling the org, scaling engineering, and all the stuff. So I hope I'm not an expert on this, but I hope to achieve that in next coming months or years. Right now, if you ask me what I'm doing, is I'm in my learning mode right now. I'm learning a lot about this ecosystem. I'm super fascinated about the stories I hear nowadays. Super proud of this Southeast Asia and India ecosystem, which is like amazing in terms of what we can do with partnering our founders, and make sure that what we can do in terms of bringing them something useful from our side. So my hope is that I will be able to help a lot of our portfolio founders and advise them and help them making things better for them, hopefully.
Yeah, yes. No, thank you. And I think it's absolutely important. Me being with Freshworks for the last 5 years, I've seen that technology has a huge say in a lot of scale and growth and all of that. And you know, I was in Indonesia many moons ago. What going forward, we'll call it pre-GoJek days. And Indonesia was very different pre-GoJek days. Like nobody had heard of it. And then along comes GoJek, the super app, which was back the only super app we could think of was WeChat and some of the organizations in China doing it. And then GoJek comes along. Currently has about 170 odd million users. And there is a very clear post-GoJek in Indonesia. Nobody is. I mean, when I went there after in my new role, and I saw everywhere that the town was painted green. I would say, right? Yeah. So what was it like for you to get acqui-hired, where you were not just hired for technology, but you were also hired for it to be built and continued, right? Ideally, that's what. How was it getting into that and then setting that vision to see growth like this, Ajay?
So when we joined, we had no idea that it will be this big.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of faith in founders, and we somehow felt that there's something up there. There's something which we can go and build. Idea was to go and build something, and we were we're given a chance to build something new, beautiful, very different. We never thought that point of time that in early 2015 or mid 2015 that it will become what it has become. But over the period of time, what we realized was that we were very good at taking an unstructured market and create a marketplace out of it. And that's what actually took us to this journey of doing whatever we can to remove the friction from our consumers' life. And that was one mission. So if you look at GoJek, right, in a lot of senses, the GoJek started to solve the problems of driver partners, not the consumers. Our founder wanted to have them more income and have them much better, discovery of customers rather than the other way around. And that was something pretty different, right, compared to anything else. Right. And then we started as super app. Like when we launched as a food, logistics, and transport as a business. Many few people know that we actually started as an intercity courier service to utilizing the motorcycle drivers as intercity courier, so we can do that. And then we went to OJEX and GoJeks and food and everything else came in. So it has been a very humbling experience in a sense that where we have. It is also very rewarding experience in terms of life lessons. You know what happens? One of the things which has taught me that it doesn't matter whether you lose or win a war. It matters who stood with you during that war, right? Yeah. So the kind of team, the kind of camaraderie, kind of people, like I have been so much fortunate in a lot of sense that I have such a nice, amazing colleagues who actually just believed in us and helped me do what I could do. But it was effort. So I always say it's not me, it's always we. And it was actually team. None of us imagined what would happen, but me and all my partners, that point of time, we're struck with this amazing phenomenon, and that actually just made GoJek what it is. So 2016, we were started making very unusual marketplaces, like beauticians, masseurs, cleaners, laundry, and all stuff. The entire lifestyle as a marketplace. We did that, and then entire online digital as a marketplace, like we didn't have online ticket sales, no event management, and like getting you water, groceries, washing machines, or whatever you want. We were looking at the limitless possibilities of removing friction from consumers' life, and that's what made GoJek what it is today. So, and the none of us, like I can tell you, like it was a team which all of us were just in there, and none of us got tired of it. Yeah. Finally, when we stopped, it was like 5 years or so. That's where. Yeah. So when you are in this kind of thing, when it becomes so. If you ask me what that experience is, that experience made it vocation, and vocation made it amazing experience.
All of a sudden, time stops for you, and then quickly you realize that holy shit, you're already getting so much more, right? That's. I want to anchor on that team part, Ajay, because you mentioned. And very nicely put that people who stand behind with you, and it matters whether you win or lose, but at the end of the day, you want to count your blessings and you want to be thankful for people who are there with you. What was it like to think about growing an organization at that scale with that much customers coming on board in a place like India? I mean, in a place like Indonesia, and among other places, but obviously doing that in Indonesia. When did you guys realize that you can make a dent in it and that this was successful? At what point were you guys sort of saying, okay, we are on to something really big here, we need to catch on to it?
I think it was within 1 year. By end of January 2016, 2017, I was really formally into GoJek. By the time we realized, okay, we are on to something really big. We used to call that point of it as limitless product ambition. Actually, it is still a tagline of our tech blog. It's like limitless product ambition, and that it is like that. It was like limitless ambition, right? And the core of it was to bring an impact to a country in a very positive way. Yeah. So if you look at GoJek, we are not talking to very commercial or financial terms, what we are talking to like companies who have positively changed the world. And we got into this Forbes list twice. Forbes, I think, Fortune list twice. The company who have made positive impact twice. And we are the only company from Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
For example, when Melinda Gates came to Bali and they saw us, they came to visit us. And they came to see what we have done for women drivers, what we have done for the society. Yeah. Correct? Same way with a lot of Varungs. Varungs is a small restaurants which we never discriminated, like, are you a A-class restaurant or a small restaurant? Because there are a lot of restaurants which are cult. And we got those. So there is a very famous story of banana fritters. It's called, and it is that is something which moved me, saying like how many people became what they became. People could send their kids to universities. Yeah. Drivers could send their daughters and sons for education. They could move things. It's like just so much of positivity around it. So when you saw all this stuff, then it becomes more. Those things become kind of multiplied force on you, right. And they that you need to live this. You can't fail. You can't fail these many people. And I always tell this one example, there's only one example I always tell, is that one day, so I used to travel between India and Jakarta because we have office in India and office in Jakarta as well. And I would never travel on Friday evening because systems were like kind of shaky. We had the most load on Fridays, people would want to go home. So once I went on, I think it was Monday morning, or Saturday morning, I was going back from Jakarta to India. And I had a very early morning, 9 o'clock flight. So I got into car at 7 o'clock to go to airport. And what I saw, I have never seen that. It was almost 1.5 years since, but I never seen that, like 7 o'clock in the morning, you see a green sea of drivers going somewhere. And they are taking helpers, students, and food delivery boys, and everybody to somewhere. Yeah. So they're like, we used to have 500,000 or more than 1 million or 2 million, that kind of orders per day in the morning itself. When you see like these many people moving and they're moving on your vehicles, you feel a very infinite responsibility of not letting them fail on you, or letting you can't fail the system because they won't be able to go somewhere. Right. And that is like conviction. Once you have that conviction, then we realize we have something on very, very big and very, very huge responsibility of us there. And then we made everybody have that product empathy. So everybody who actually joined GoJek, they have to go to our driver care and customer care unit and sit there for like 3 days to understand how many people, what kind of pain they go through. And that empathy is very important. Yeah. And once you get that empathy going, then things, wherever you are, as long as your team has product empathy, they'll try to bring more people. It kind of become a mission to just get more and more people and manage them.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I think that's a lovely story. And I've seen that. And it is surreal when you stand in signals, which in Jakarta you do very often, and you see all the other bikes surrounding you, and it's all green. It is surreal. Now, I want to anchor on moving on to the driver part of it and focus on the scale with a little bit of technology. Now, there was an event which I want to highlight. We heard that you onboarded 50,000 drivers within 4 weeks by putting in production level blocking stadiums and onboarding them in a very seamless way, where it was like a production lineup of them getting their mobile, getting onboarded with the training, like you mentioned, even getting some training on empathy and all of it. And your orders went from 5,000 per day to 3 million, or roughly about 3 million odd per day, an insane amount of orders as well. What were some of the learnings as the CTO on the technology part of it, especially in terms of scaling and all of it? Limitless product was one of the things you mentioned, but how do you look at scale overnight and think about what to anticipate? Do you just go buy every server out there, or was there like a method to this madness?
No, it is a madness. So it was our then COO. Very good friend of mine, Rohan. So we were struggling with this. Like, how do we onboard drivers fast, right? What should we do? Like, how much ever you put a customer care center or driver care centers, you can't onboard. It's physically impossible. Yeah. So we needed to think out of the box. And then I didn't do much. What I did is I just had to make sure that we can handle those many drivers getting onboarded. So I think my part was very small. But it was an amazing part of the team played a very good thing, and Rohan was amazing. So they thought out of the box. Rohan, Nadeem, and all of us sat down saying, okay, why don't we, how do we get more drivers? That means we need a lot of space.
Yeah.
So we planned for like 2 weeks because we needed to have 50,000 drivers in 4 weeks' time. If we don't have that, then you will have more disappointed consumers. Right?
Yeah.
You can't have more disappointed consumers. That means 50,000 jackets and helmets and everything else. Like there was a time when the green cloth was over in Jakarta. We couldn't procure more to make our driver's jacket, and we ran out of helmets as well. So we had to look at all that logistics, and we had to make sure that the technology plays a role to reduce the friction. And one of them is like onboarding a driver. So we literally put stalls in a stadium. Driver will come in from one gate and just go through stalls by stall by stall by stall, and get out. Once he gets out, activates his app, and literally it was magic for them and us as well. Within 15-20 minutes, the driver will return.
Yeah.
And it was organic growth. So when you look at this kind of thing, so we had to plan a lot. One of the things which gives you scale is discipline. If you are disciplined, then only you can scale, and if you are scaling, then you have to be disciplined as well. So it is like vice versa thing. So discipline was around making sure that what kind of business metrics we are monitoring. One of the things which I believe is that our product engineering team should monitor business metrics, because if they monitor business metrics, they understand what volumes are coming to them, and they'll understand the nitty-gritty details, and they'll also understand. I'll give you a simple example. Suppose you are stuck with, say, number of orders. Suppose you can process only 7 transactions per second. On an average, you have 86,000 seconds in a day. So you're talking about 560,000 transactions a day. That means you cannot go more than 500,000 transactions a day. If you start looking at the 7 transactions per day kind of metrics, saying, can you make it 12? And then you'll figure out a lot of performance things. But then you'll say, this must process faster, this must get faster. I mean, that's what we did. So we kept looking at systems in the background and saying, how can we make the system faster? By caching, by adding more services, by making database faster, by optimizing this request. And that's what went into for almost an year to consistently improve some or other part and bring the efficiency, so that we can, over the period of time, we can deal with like 12 or 15 or 20. We can do now around like 25 to 30 TPS, which is like 30 transactions per second, which is crazy amount of transactions, right? And if you do that, then things are perfectly fine. So given that kind of thought process, that where you look, so I believe that product engineering team should look at business transactions and see where they are hitting. And sometimes there are a lot of good value is there. And also business guys should look at our uptime and everything else, so they also understand what we are going through. And this creates a very good rhythm and sympathy. And that point of time, it also creates empathy around people as well. And that point of time, that's all we did. We worked very closely together, and that's how we could scale it. There's nothing else to scale. There's no magic. That's what we did. We just looked at business metrics and see what is possible. How do we make it faster?
Thank you. For a magician, there's nothing called a magic, right? It's a day's job. It is. For a lot of us, it's a magic. But for a magician, it's a day's job. So as much as you're saying it's a magic, for a lot of us, it isn't. But doing this out of Indonesia must have been even more a struggle. But after doing this and then seeing the result right now, where do you think the next set of unicorns are going to come? Because I am betting big in places like Indonesia and Southeast Asia. I come from this region. I see this day in and day out. Do you see? What's your thought? Obviously on Southeast Asia, but mostly on Indonesia as a startup ecosystem. The I would even call it post-COVID days, but post-GoJek days. And do you feel Indonesia as a market and an ecosystem is meant to do a lot more and is coming a lot more from your perspective?
Absolutely. Actually, very positive about Southeast Asia and Indonesia in particular. Yeah. It's a very massive mobile-first economy. If you look at this, like if you look at the statistics of mobile connections and how many millennials are there who spend a lot of time on mobile, it's a crazy. And I think GoJek is testament of that. if you look at GoJek, it is testament of that kind of mindset. There's young population who's like really keen to explore new brands. They are very digital savvy. They provide a lot of scope for our tech companies to grow and mature. If you look at a lot of companies which are coming around, they are unicorns. Like out of 10 unicorns in Southeast Asia, 4 are from Indonesia, which is itself a statement, right? Also, if you look at the startups which are coming from Indonesia, the Indonesians are very entrepreneurial. If you look at that way, right? Like I have been there for almost 5 years now, and I call Jakarta my second home. And it is a very well connected ecosystem, right? And if you look at last 4 or 5 years, we have GoJek, we have Tokopedia, we have Troloka, and while you see now we have so many people in 5 years over there, we have amazing amount of experience within Indonesia to mentor next set of people. Like what happened with Indian startups, that when people from Indian startups left and started their own companies, we know that whole ecosystem, right? The biggest startup ecosystem where people left and started many more startups. That is coming up now with Indonesia now. So I'm super excited about that. And now, if you look at just the plug and play connectivity and all stuff, Indonesia is actually global powerhouse in tech talent in a lot of sense. A lot of Indonesians are coming back now. And they're starting, and this is exactly what happened with India 12 years back, right? And we also see many non-Indonesians also choosing to operate in that country or starting up in that country.
Right.
And that is a bridge. Like if you look at from India and Indonesia, we have this tech bridge over there, which is like amazing fostering ecosystem. And that whole thing, the whole market will emerge pretty strong in coming 3, 4, 5 years. It's already pretty strong. And like now you have at least some 15, 20 top-notch entrepreneurs who have unicorns over there. Availability of mentors. So and startup ecosystem has one very good thing. If you reach out to somebody saying, I need some help, the startup ecosystem never turns you down. They'll always listen to you and always provide advice. And there's no transaction involved in that. And that is something very beautiful about startup ecosystem. So that's why I'm super excited about Indonesia. Like, very excited.
Thank you. And I think all the startup founders have always taken that risk. So there is that mentality of all of us have taken the risk. So let's sort of mentor each other. But what would you also call some of the challenges some of the startups have got to overcome in the Southeast Asia ecosystem compared to the giants of the Silicon Valley, especially in the post-COVID days? What are some of the challenges you think that some of the startup founders who are listening today or members of these startups they need to watch out for?
So the thing is that two things, right? While capital is still available, I see still funding going on and capital is still available. But I think the growth at any cost, that era is gone. And you can't purchase or fund growth using your money or raised money. You shouldn't do that. They need to build companies with the eyes of eventually building something powerful economic engine, right? For example, GoJek also was not built on that purchase the growth with the money kind of mindset. We have been always underdogs, always been very frugal in doing a lot of stuff, right? And I think companies need to do this. I think it's very critical or extremely critical for founders to be able to demonstrate strong unit economics and path to profitability instead of path to growth by using money or something like that. We shouldn't, right? I think this is very good time for us to actually solidify our vision and kind of conserve cash, but also build out and test out a lot of hypotheses you have for your product features or product market fits or whatever. You can do a lot of good stuff with a very low cost right now. And you will eventually get out of it. So this is not permanent. The point is this is not permanent, but there's amazing time for us to look at right now. For example, for founders, the empathy and the kindness and the understanding their staff's thought process. People are like stuck in their houses. That is very important. You have to make sure that your team understand that you are there for them. Again, I said, it doesn't matter whether we win the war or we lose the war. It matters who stood with you during that war, right? this is another war where founders have to stand with their teams as much as they can.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So that people understand that kind of thought process and what is going on. Given this, last thing I would say, I think startups have to be very, very decisive nowadays. Like those who have like 3 months runaway, make it like 6 months. Who has 6 months, make it like 12 to 18 months. And who has 12 months runaway, make it like 2 years. While don't assume that this will go away. But while it is going to go away, but don't assume this will go away, because this puts you in the amazing reality and simulation mode that what all things you can do within constraints. Yeah. And I think constraints always bring the best out of you. So that's what I would say we should
100%. Yeah. Sorry, please go on, please.
And before like 3 months back when I was at GoJek, I was exactly working and executing on that. We had raised funds recently, but still we were like going on exactly these kind of paths.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes having that fear of doing things the right way and ensuring that being frugal helps. But being frugal lets me to ask my last question for the day. Now, Ajay, I want to bring a quote you'd mentioned. I believe in earn people and not money. That led me meeting many good people and get many life lessons so far. So to bring us home, Ajay, for the end of this session, what is that one life lesson you would want us to take away as startup founders, as enthusiasts, or people in this industry from that particular quote, which I thought was very beautiful, which is earn people. And it goes by the fact that be frugal. It isn't about the money, but it's about people, war stories, and all of it. What could be one of those life lessons you'd want to take away from your experience building GoJek all the way through now?
So I'll put it so I have learned many lessons, but let us put a lesson in the startup context or like building product context. So I have learned this one lesson that nobody, so let's take example of a product manager and engineer. Let's take these two examples. None of the product managers want that their product should never see the light of the day. They always want their product to see the light of the day. They'll do everything possible to make sure the product sees the light of the day. On the other hand, engineers do not want their code to be sitting on their laptops, or UX people do not want their design to be sitting on their screens. They want it out there. They want to go out there, right? So everybody who is working with you always has amazing intent and positivity around their work, because they all are creators. Lot of time we kind of question their intent and we say teams are slow. I think we forget that none of them want to have their code on their laptop. They want their code or their product or their creation to go out. We never focus on why it is slow. We always say it is slow, and we kind of try to summarize it in a very different way. If only people start thinking around this and sitting with those people saying, okay, tell me what can I do for you to make this faster, instead of questioning their intent, things will change a lot, and it has changed a lot for me. So that is one lesson I've learned, but never question the intent and positivity of people. And if you sit with them, you will earn them. First thing, you will earn them because they understand that you want to do something beautiful with them, or you want to take their beautiful thing to somewhere else. Also, you will have an amazing gratification that you actually build something together. So yeah, that is one thing I would say.
Lovely.
Is something very important.
Thank you. I think you summarized both the conversation and the book, but Nivas is here, which means it's time for us to thank the audience. But it was a pleasure talking to you. I wish we had more time. Hopefully we get to see you more often, now that you're no longer busy behind building GoJek, but helping other organizations build. For us, I look forward seeing you more often in APAC as well. Good luck on your new role. And thank you for joining us this afternoon, Ajay.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for actually hosting me, and would love to chat up with you again since we are in Singapore.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thanks a lot. Freshworks are hosting me. Thanks a lot, guys.